Welcome to the Economist in Your Ear podcast. What happens when the full weight of an authoritarian state is weaponized to save a collapsing ecosystem, and who gets crushed in the process?
It is, it's a really profound contradiction, right? Because we are watching this ecological triumph happen at just a breakneck speed,
Yeah.
but it relies completely on a governance model that, well, most democratic societies would find pretty terrifying.
Right, you really can't separate the environmental win from the political machinery that forced it through.
Exactly.
So today we're discussing a piece titled China's Mightiest River is Coming Back from the Brink. And our mission here is to take you on a bit of an intellectual journey.
Yeah, because if you're used to environmental progress taking decades of arguing and lobbying.
What it usually does, right?
Right, exactly. But here, the Yangtze River has achieved this miraculous turnaround in just a few years.
But we aren't just going to sit here and cheer for the data. I mean,
Right.
we really need to critically examine this eco-authoritarian model.
Absolutely, because we have to unpack the tension between state-run conservation and, regular human livelihoods.
And we're going to challenge some of the glaring blind spots in China's policy, too. Because taking these results at face value kind of ignores the reality of how they got them.
Yeah, fundamentally, this is a story about power.
Right. Well, let's start with the river itself.
Right.
Before the state stepped in. 'Cause you kind of need a baseline for how bad things were, right?
Yeah, you really do.
The Yankee's massive. It's 6,300 kilometers long. It's Asia's longest river, often called China's mother river.
Right, but a few years ago, it wasn't just, a bit polluted. It was entirely paralyzed by overcapacity.
I like to think of it like a medical analogy.
Yeah.
It's like a patient totally flatlining on the operating table.
Oh, that's a good way to put it.
And then the government just rushes in and applies this massive ecological defibrillator.
Yeah, because the physical strain on that environment was just relentless for decades.
Just nonstop abuse.
Exactly. I mean, you had municipal sewage, toxic industrial waste just pouring into the main channels, plus this immense overfishing dragging millions of tons of life out of the water.
And the dams too, right?
Yes, mega dams carving up the flow. You have to remember, an ecosystem basically has a biological budget. It only has so much oxygen, clean water, and space.
Right.
And by the 2010s, human activity had completely bankrupted the Yangtze's budget.
And the losses from that were, well, they were permanent. Like we lost the Beiji, right?
Yeah, the Beiji dolphin.
Which is just tragic. It was this incredibly unique white-bellied dolphin that was almost entirely blind.
Yeah, and they're the perfect example of how complex this degradation was, because they navigated by sonar, right?
Wow, okay.
So as the river turned into this massive industrial shipping lane, the roar of the boat engines effectively blinded them.
Oh, because they couldn't use their sonar through the noise?
Exactly. They couldn't hunt, they couldn't communicate, they just got struck by propellers constantly. And now they're considered completely extinct.
Just erased. Along with the gigantic sword-nosed paddlefish, which I read had survived since the dinosaurs.
Yeah, the situation was apocalyptic.
Which is why the turnaround since 2021 feels, honestly, a little like science fiction.
It really does.
I mean, sweeping protections kicked in, and the rebound has been wild. The estimated total weight of all the fish in the river, the biomass, has surged by over 200%.
Right, which reversed 7 decades of decline. A V-shaped recovery like that in a major ecosystem is, well, it's almost unheard of.
Yeah, and scientists are seeing wild things, like a rare sturgeon breeding in the wild for the first time in 20 years.
Right.
Plus, more fish are actually reaching sexual maturity, so the population is prepping to expand. But, I mean, I have to ask you, are these just isolated data points? Or does a spike in fish weight actually prove this massive 6,300-kilometer system is healing?
It's a great question, and the scientific community looks for very specific markers to prove systemic recovery. The most critical one here isn't just the weight of the fish.
Okay, what if
It's the resurgence of the finless porpoise.
Ah, the river pigs.
Yeah, the locals call them river pigs.
Which is such an unglamorous name for the star of this comeback. They're these chubby, snub-nosed relatives of the Beiji, right?
They are, yeah. And in 2017, their population had crashed to just 1,000 individuals.
Wow.
But today, conservationists are tracking over 1,400 of them. And the reason that 40% jump is so important is because the finless porpoise is an indicator species.
Right. I hear that term a lot in nature docs. Break down what an indicator species actually is in practice.
Sure. So it acts like a diagnostic test for the whole habitat. The porpoise is a top predator.
Okay.
So for even one of them to survive and reproduce, it needs a massive, totally stable food web beneath it. Vast schools of prey which need healthy plants and clean water.
I see.
Plus, they need undisturbed breeding grounds.
Yeah.
So a rising porpoise population is an irrefutable guarantee that the foundational layers of the ecosystem have repaired themselves.
So the biological budget is running a surplus again. Exactly. The recovery is real. But that forces us to look at how they actually pulled it off. I mean, the timeline is what gets me.
That's
In most countries, a 10-year fishing ban would take years of lawsuits, lobbying, and protests before it even got off the ground. It's like a corporate CEO just bypassing the board to instantly shut down the company's most profitable but toxic division.
That is a very accurate analogy, and they did it through eco-authoritarianism. It totally removes democratic friction.
Right, so let's look at that 10-year commercial fishing ban.
Yeah, that started in 2021.
To give you some scale, in the 1950s, fleets were pulling 400,000 tons of fish out of there a year. By the time the ban hit, it was under 100,000 tons because it was so depleted.
Right.
And then, literally overnight, the catch limit goes to zero.
Across the entire river, the tributaries, and the massive lakes connected to it. Zero.
They didn't negotiate, right?
No phase transition, no union talks. They just turned off the industry. And they enforced it like a military operation.
That's where the authoritarian label really clicks for me. Because they use drones, AI-powered surveillance cameras on the banks, relentless river patrols.
Right, and massive fines. Criminal cases for illegal fishing actually dropped 40% recently because the surveillance net is just too tight.
You literally can't evade it.
Exactly. But fishing was just one lever. They also went after the industrial footprint.
Right, the chemical plants.
Yeah, they systematically closed or forced the relocation of thousands of chemical factories along the river, plus massive reforestation projects to bind the soil and stop toxic runoff.
And then there's the cities. They started spongifying the cities along the river, which I'll admit, when I read that, I pictured giant foam pads.
Right, it sounds ridiculous.
How does a city act like a sponge?
It's all about urban hydrology. Usually, cities are just impermeable concrete. Rain hits it, grabs oil and heavy metals, and flushes straight into the river.
Nasty.
Yeah, so spongifying means ripping up that concrete. They replace it with artificial wetlands, permeable pavement, and deep-rooted plants.
Oh, so the water literally soaks into the city.
Exactly. It holds the rain in the soil, naturally filters it, and lets it slowly seep into the water table. It cleans the water and stops flooding.
Okay, but doing any one of those things, shutting down fishing, moving factories, planting forests, ripping up city streets, that takes a monumental effort.
It really does.
Doing them all at once? How does the political engine even drive that?
Well, it comes from the very top. Xi Jinping personally backed this, and they did something very clever. They tied the promotion of local officials directly to environmental metrics.
Wait, really? So if your local water quality drops,
Or if someone is caught fishing illegally in your town.
your political career is just over.
Yes. The conservationist Wang Limin pointed this out. When the central government prioritizes something, they can concentrate an unimaginable amount of resources on it. Bureaucrats are terrified of failing these quotas.
Which brings us to the human collateral. Because when you remove democratic friction, you get these rapid miracles, sure. But you also destroy any way for the people harmed by these policies to actually be heard.
Right. A top-down system doesn't tolerate resistance, and someone always pays the price for this kind of efficiency.
In this case, it was the 230,000 fishermen.
Yeah.
Nearly 250,000 people who woke up, their jobs were outlawed, and the government just confiscated or dismantled their boats.
Now, if you read state-run media, they claim it was a huge success. The narrative is that fishers got compensated, retrained, and found better jobs.
But the reality on the ground is totally different. Like in Jinxian County, by Junchan Lake. Journalists went there, and locals said only 1 in 5 fishermen got any compensation at all.
Right, meaning 80% were just financially abandoned.
Overnight. And even the ones who got paid said it didn't replace their income. A lot of them had to migrate to cities to become day laborers.
It's devastating.
There was this one quote from a former fisherwoman running a tiny restaurant. She said, "No one listens to the common people. You can't argue with them."
And the irony is, right near there, the government put up a propaganda sign saying, "Ban fishing together, move forward together."
Oh, wow, move forward together. Right. But even the people who tried to follow the state's new rules are getting crushed, like Mr. Zhang.
Oh, right, the eel farmer.
Yeah, he used to have the best wild fishing operation on the lake. Now his boat is rotting at the dock. The government told guys like him to pivot to aquaculture, right? Raising swamp eels.
Yeah, which is a popular local dish.
But The economics are insane for a working-class fisher. Wild fishing just takes a net and a boat. Swamp eels require you to dig massive ponds, buy water systems, feed, and juvenile eels.
It's a huge upfront capital risk.
Massive.
Yeah.
He invested heavily because the state encouraged it, but demand dropped, and now he says every eel farmer he knows is losing money.
And this exposes the fatal flaw here. When you treat locals as obstacles instead of partners, you create these huge vulnerabilities.
Yeah, that's my main question here. Is this human cost just unavoidable? Or does alienating the locals actually threaten the long-term conservation effort?
I'd argue it deeply threatens it. True resilience requires local stewardship. When a policy destroys a community's livelihood without fair recourse, they stop caring about the river.
Right, it becomes a symbol of oppression.
Exactly. So if the central government ever stops funding the drones and the cameras, the locals have zero incentive to protect it. They might even exploit it out of spite or desperation.
So it's a super fragile victory.
Very fragile.
And it makes you wonder if the state is willing to silence 230,000 fishermen for conservation, who are they refusing to silence?
Yeah. That brings us to the biggest contradiction in this whole story.
The hydropower blind spot. I mean, to me, this is like putting a patient on a strict organic diet to cure heart disease, but letting them smoke 3 packs of cigarettes a day.
That is a great way to frame it.
State media calls China a global biodiversity champion, but they are obsessed with damming rivers.
Right. And it goes back decades. Dams for flood control and hydroelectricity.
Right.
You've got the Three Gorges Dam, the largest power station on Earth, plus thousands of smaller ones.
And dams aren't just walls. They change the physics of the water.
Completely. A healthy river needs dynamic flow. Dams turn it into a series of stagnant, segmented lakes. They trap the sediment that builds wetlands.
And they block the fish. Right.
Exactly. The fish in the Yangtze are highly migratory. They need to swim upstream to specific, fast-moving water to spawn.
But they just hit concrete.
Right. And then the population crashes. A lot of ecologists say these dams have done as much historical damage as the overfishing.
I read a quote from Stephen Cook, a researcher who co-authored a paper on the Yangtze. He said, "The hydropower industry has really gotten a pass."
Yeah, everyone else sacrificed, but hydropower didn't change at all.
Because the government is aggressively trying to decarbonize.
Right. They need massive amounts of clean energy to get off coal. So they're trapped between wanting to be eco-saviors and needing energy.
And they're still building them right now during this ecological renaissance.
Yeah, the new dam at Poyang Lake.
Which is China's largest freshwater lake. It's like a lung for the river system. The government approved a new 3-kilometer dam there to control dry season water levels.
Right, essentially turning a natural lake into a managed reservoir.
But environmentalists are freaking out because it threatens migratory birds, and this is the crazy part. It threatens the exact same finless porpoises the state just spent billions saving.
It is the ultimate contradiction. This is where the eco-authoritarian model hits a wall. They will ruthlessly enforce rules on powerless fishermen, but the moment conservation conflicts with a state mega project.
The ecosystem is suddenly negotiable.
Completely negotiable.
So we need to synthesize all this for you listening. On a purely scientific level, the Yangtze proves that rapid ecological recovery is entirely possible.
Yeah, nature's capacity to heal is incredible if we just remove the pressure. It's genuinely inspiring.
But the Chinese model shows the dark side of doing it that fast. It requires ignoring massive human collateral damage, crushing livelihoods without a second thought, and tolerating these glaring infrastructural blind spots.
Right. Because a state with the absolute power to save a river overnight also has the unchecked power to destroy it just as fast. They are a very unreliable ally to the environment.
Which leaves us with the final puzzle for you to mull over. The indicator species, the porpoise, is finally recovering. But it's swimming right toward a massive new megadam at Poyang Lake.
Yeah.
What happens when an authoritarian state's environmental metrics inevitably collide with its own engineering ambitions? Can a river truly be saved when its ultimate protector is also its greatest threat? Thanks for listening. Follow us for daily insights into world affairs, and don't forget to like, comment, and share.